Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, welcome to an impromptu sit and talk, paint and sit. I don't know. What are we doing? I don't know. We got Josh, we got Aaron, we don't have War Boss Doug. Boo, War Boss Doug, why didn't you join us? I miss you. Okay, he's not coming. You know why he won't come?
Why?
It's fancy.
Because apparently, and I just found this out, Zoom, blocked protesters from Zooming.
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
Zoom is blocking protesters.
Apparently, Zoom
They were in
blocked
China, I saw.
Apparently, Zoom blocked protesters.
Or Korea, one of the two.
Here in the U.S.
I didn't see that they did it in the U.S., though.
Well, unfortunately, I pay for Zoom for work, so that's what we're using.
Brought to you by Zoom.
Brought to you by Zoom. So, we got some big things today that we're going to talk about really quick. Oh, by the way, we're with Aaron and Josh. Say hi, guys.
What up? I'm painting Crisis Protocol.
I'm building more Caradron Overlords because I can't stop building war bands.
That's good. That's good. I have a laser cut X-wing, but it's like the TIE Advance, I believe.
Oh, cool.
That Adam and I laser cut, but I cut it out slightly wrong, so I have to fix that and glue it together for him. So I'm going to work on that. And then we are going to be talking about the new flying rules. We're going to be talking about the new phase in Warhammer 40k. We are going to be talking about the Necron faction focus. And if you're really lucky, I'll show you how terrible the back of my head looks.
Oh, man. Don't do it. Scare people away.
Is that a Kentucky waterfall I see?
Oh
back
my
there?
gosh. It's so bad in the back. Guys, what did I do?
Looks like a Missouri Compromise.
I don't know what that means, but I don't like it. I don't like it. So we'll spend about an hour or so talking about all of these things. I made a terrible mistake right before the stream started.
Oh, no. What'd you do?
I was repositioning my webcam and I dropped it right onto my plate of Marines.
Uh-oh.
How'd that work out?
Oh my gosh, like a bunch of them are damaged, but even worse, all of them were flipped in a particular orientation, so I knew what the last thing I painted was.
Oh, no.
And now they're not in that orientation.
That seems like a problem.
Hey, welcome.
That was my sister-in-law. She's leaving. She just wanted to say bye-bye.
That's the cool sister-in-law,
Hold on.
right?
Yeah. They're all cool.
Okay, where do we want to start? Should we start with flyers, or shall we start with 40Ks turning into Age of Sigmar?
Yes.
Let's start with flyers, I think.
Okay, so flyers. Flyers can come in from Tactical Reserve. They land so long as they are more than 9 inches away from any other model, which I think is actually going to be a little hard with the smaller board sizes.
They have to outside of 9 inches?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially because they got big bices. And then for all intended purposes, unless you fly, you ignore them.
Well, with
Right.
them on the board. Yeah, like running into them and such. I mean, they
Yeah.
can still shoot you, and
Run
you can
over their
shoot them.
bases.
You
So do you
ignore.
think this is going to mean that there's going to be placeholders and templates
Yeah.
on the board now for flyers?
I think so.
I don't know. Like, it's really confusing. So let me just read the rules while you guys look at my terrible haircut.
All right.
Taking flight on Warhammer Community, posted June 12th. When an aircraft model arrives from Strategic Reserve, you can choose to set it up anywhere in the battlefield that is more than 9 inches from any enemy model facing any direction, instead of setting it up wholly within 6 inches of a particular battlefield edge. Aircraft models can never declare a charge in the turn they arrive from Strategic Reserves, but otherwise follow all the normal rules for models arriving from Strategic Reserve. Okay. Freedom of the skies. Models can move within an enemy aircraft's engagement range.
What's engagement range?
That's the close combat range.
1 inch.
Oh, okay.
We don't know that it's 1 inch.
We don't.
because it could be changing now, and engagement range could even change based on what weapon they're carrying. We don't know. They're just using the word engagement range. But
Sure.
You mean like in Age of Sigmar?
I didn't say that.
You did say that.
Well,
But Josh did.
I'm implying that.
It's pretty heavy-handed.
Models can move over aircraft and their bases when they make any kind of move, but it doesn't say they can land on the bases, just that they can move over the bases.
What I think is funny is it says that they can move onto them. So that technically means that you don't need a template. You just stand on the ship. So I'm going to stand on my opponent's Valkyrie.
No, it says you can move over.
Yeah, technically standing on them is over. I'm over them. I'm just being silly. Technically, you can be over them by standing on top of them.
Right, standing.
I don't think you can
I don't
stand
know.
on the model.
I don't believe that moving over something equals standing on it. I don't get it. Aircraft can make a normal move or advance even within engagement range of enemy models. You can make a normal move or advance if they are only within engagement range of enemy aircraft. And when a model performs a heroic intervention, piles in or consolidates, ignore aircraft. See, that's the part that is confusing me. It says ignore aircraft. So that's where you could wind up landing on the aircraft's base to get into close combat. So, like, I'll just set this up. Hey, I have an aircraft, too. It has no wings. But so if this is the aircraft, and these are the Marines, and these Marines are going to charge these other Marines, right? Do they just move on to the aircraft's base and then, like...
Yep, I think they do.
That seems messy.
Yeah, it seems messy. I think Aaron's right, though. You probably have a template if you want things to look pretty.
But then your aircraft isn't on the board.
Well, either that or people are running over your flyers with their models.
Right,
Yeah.
but then when it's time to move your flyer and you have a bunch of guys that are piled on the bottom of it, what do you just pick it up and shake them off?
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, I think so.
You do a little Taylor Swift action.
I'm not happy about this situation.
What?
I don't understand it, and so I'm not happy about it.
All right.
Are you happy about it?
I mean, flyer rules have always been messy. So it's just going to be messy as far as I'm concerned.
But do you think this they have to do this because the board size is so small and they're like, oh my gosh, you won't be able to run flyers if their bases are these huge null zones?
Well, it certainly doesn't help.
Right.
There are games that do flyers in a completely different way, which I don't think people in 40K would really truly enjoy. But things like Flames of War, you're playing kind of as like a token that kind of flies over the board and you roll during a phase and then it's gone.
But do you actually have
There's actually a ship, a plane, but it really doesn't need to be there and it doesn't go anywhere. It just kind of, you're like, here it is, and then it goes away.
Well, that's also not really how flyers work in the game.
Or fun.
Yeah. Or fun.
I can't believe you just compared anything in 40K to Flames of War.
You like that?
Flames of garbage.
Oh man, you're gonna make a lot of people mad.
Oh really? Sorry, peoples. Flames of War is like one of those games that I really wanted to play every time I see it in the box until I watch people actually play it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's certain people really like it though. So
it's kind of like after putting 400 hours into Fallout, having your friend make you start over on a different platform.
that's pretty sweet.
I don't know how it's like that at all.
Apparently it is.
And then I don't want to do it.
Oh come on, it's not that bad.
No, it's not that bad. It's fine. Everything's fine. So, okay. I mean, that's interesting. It seems like it'll be a little bit easier to navigate the flyers around and use them, but...
Unless you are on a smaller board, in which case, what happens if you can't bring your flyer back on the board that turn? It just stays off the board until the next turn, maybe?
Yeah, it would be very hard for your flyer not to come on the board. It can come anywhere on the board.
9 inches away.
Yeah, but anywhere on the board. So,
I mean,
like I said,
yeah.
I'm just thinking. I don't know. It's a possibility if it's a smaller board.
it's possible, but it's probably not super easy.
It just might
But
not
you're
be
right,
able to,
it's
it just might not
possible.
be usable. Like you might be able to get it on the board, but it's like, oh, it always starts in the back left corner or the back right corner. Like,
Yeah.
It will be handy if your ship is only has a couple health left, and especially if it's something that's not bracketed. Just fly off the board, and then boop, I'm gonna come back over here and shoot you guys from behind over on this side.
Yeah. Well, that's what it should be. I mean, planes are supposed to be flying across the board real fast, so. At least that's what
it
I
says
would say.
aircraft keyword, not its drones. I guess they're already pointing out that Tau is going to have problems with this.
Well, it just means that you can't detach the drones and fly around at airplane speed.
Well, that's too bad. So like that's interesting. I think the most revealing information here is that they kind of give away how reserves are going to work, which is 6 inches from the board edge. From any board edge.
Yeah.
Wholly within 6 inches of a particular battlefield edge. Which means that the scenarios like Age of Sigmar are probably going to specify which board edges you're going to be coming in off of.
You like saying that little tagline today.
Well, we can talk about why.
Well, the last edition was like 40K turning into Age of Sigmar, and now it's more like Age of Sigmar.
Aaron, tell me more how 40K is looking like Age of Sigmar. What else have they added? That
you know what, Aaron? I really appreciate you saying that.
Oh my gosh.
So if you go to today's release, which is Faction Focus, and you scroll down.
Are they focusing on Necrons?
No, I'm sorry, I lied. It's not that one. It is the Canoptech Reanimator Focus, which is also today's, but it's its own post. And you go Nano Scarab Reanimation Beam, which is what they talked about in the thing, and that I said I thought maybe was a shooting attack because they used the word target.
Right.
And they also said the Proboscis, which is what injects into the heavy raiders. It says, in your command phase, you can select one friendly dynasty unit within 9 inches of this model. If you do, until the start of your next command phase.
Wait, are you treating this as like new information? Because the command phase was spoiled like last week.
It's new information to me.
Okay, yeah, that's been spoiled from last week. So that's been... so the command phase is in. It's when you use all of this stuff, just like Age of Sigmar. There's going to be... That's when you're going to be paying for reserves and doing all this other stuff. Because when you pay for reserves, I guess... not paying for reserves. That's like when you... Oh, man, what was I going to say?
Sounds kind of like more like your untap and upkeep phase.
Yeah, it's going to be like that, exactly. Except that's also where you're going to trigger all your abilities. Some of the new guys say that during your command phase, when you spend something, you can also possibly spend a command point. You have like a 5-up chance to get it back. So that they've had some of those already spoiled as well. The thing I'm interested in, does that mean that command points are only used during the command phase and no rerolls and stuff like that anymore? It's not how it works in Age of Sigmar, but we haven't seen that yet so far here about when.
No, looking at the there was some spoiled Death Guard rules from the Spider. They basically fixed Death Guard, it looks like, but it's behind a paywall entirely. Like, it's all stuff that should be there, but you're still having to pay command points for. And what I'm seeing a lot of in that is a lot of command points up front.
What do you mean behind a paywall?
Meaning that there's a lot of stuff that it's as if they fixed Death Guard, but you have to pay command points to get that fixed because there's a lot of underpowered and undervalued units in Death Guard. and they fixed them, but you have to spend command points. But the point is you're spending a lot up front. There's a lot that you're supposed to spend before the game even starts, and it alters the character's ability completely in some cases, which is kind of cool. But I think that's going to be one of the main points of command points. So I don't think you're going to see rerolls as much, and it seems like they're trying to get rid of those instant reactions, to an opponent doing something and then pausing the game to get all your special abilities out and done up front, and then just do the normal rest of the phases and just get it over.
I mean, it would speed the game up, but it also takes away some of the interplay that you might have when it's not your turn.
Absolutely.
I hate gotcha moments. I think that's fantastic.
It's not always about gotcha moments, but it's better than just sitting there watching your opponent roll dice and pulling stuff off the table sometimes.
Yeah, but not if that's done in 30 seconds and you get to move on.
But your opponent's moving and shooting their entire army first. So there's a lot of non-interaction, and taking that away would lead to more non-interaction. That's what I'm saying.
Well, what if the whole point is they are trying to do different ways of tackling to speed up the game?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they're doing, but it's taking away some of the interaction possibly.
I mean, I don't disagree with you. I like interacting with my opponent.
It's just the thing. Here's my thing. Yeah. There's too many rules and too many armies to know every single stupid person's stratagems, and every single possible scenario where every one of those stratagems can be used, and every one of the interactions of those stratagems with their specific units, which leads to a lot of gotcha moments. And I know, like, professional players will say, like, well, you got to know the other person's armies and you got to know all this stuff, but it's like, like pulling a stratagem out of your ass that affects a particular model in a particular way, and that person not knowing it, and you just popping it out and being like, well, that's what happens. That's not a clean win as far as I'm concerned.
Well, you've just hit the nail on the head. The only thing I don't like about Warhammer 40K, and that's stratagems. I mean, command points. And here's why.
I don't think that's what I said at all. Okay.
No. You did. You just did. You said you don't want to have to memorize 1,000 things. I challenge you to name the titles of 7 of the command points that you have in your Space Marine Codex right now. Go.
I mean, you know that's an unfair question because
I'm just saying there's 20.
Because I'm literally painting my Space Marines.
I know. The point being is that it's too much. Most of it's not used. Ones that can be gotcha moments. I feel like there's too much memorization in 40K, and it's creeping towards War Machine-y land where there are gotcha moments, and you have to memorize everything to actually be able to play the game with all the command points and stuff. I really don't. I wish they would have removed command points and stratagems in
command
this
points
edition.
Are also the thing that allows you to interact more with your opponent.
It does, but I also believe I can have 2 beliefs on this.
Okay.
They don't need to have a system where you have to memorize this granular concept where certain things cost 1 point, certain things cost another. I don't think it's a great use of rules. I just don't like the design concept. I feel like could be simpler and easier to use. For instance, I'll take something like Crisis Protocol, where every model has a couple of rules, but there's maybe 3, and you might have 3 times 3, 15, or 3 times 5, 15 total rules to remember for the whole game. But if you're playing Soup, if you're playing just regular Marines, you might have like 30 stratagems, depending on what book you're playing out of and what rules you have. I mean, it can be exponential how many that you have to remember. And you're not playing your army to the fullest if you can't pull those out and have those readily available for you to utilize and remember in the game. So,
well, I think there's always parts of the games and rules that if you're not fully utilizing, you're behind the 8 ball. But I think stratagems, I enjoy stratagems to an extent. I agree. There's a lot that are useless. There are a lot that are gotchas. But I also think that they help give a lot of flavor and like show off like your faction's tricks that aren't bound to having to take a specific model.
But you just said I understand but you just said you didn't like that the Death Guard are behind that paywall, and you have to use stratagems to give them abilities that they probably should have already had in the model.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why I was talking the other day. I think that Death Guard will get an actual codex within the first year, just kind of like how Death Watch got the shaft and got their rules in White Dwarf, and it's because they're going to have a codex right around the corner into 9th edition. And I think the same is going to happen, and this is just something to kind of hold them over. But I think it's going to be the trend when it comes to command points. Everyone's going to get 12, and you're going to spend probably 6 to 8 of them before the game even starts, maybe. And maybe use 1 or 2 on your turn to do really cool stuff. And now you're going to maybe use 1 for maybe 1 gotcha or a reroll on an opponent's turn. But I think
I don't agree with that. Hold on, give me a second.
With what? What part?
I have a brush in my mouth. 1 second. I think that it looks like they're already building in ways of recapturing your stratagem points.
They are.
So
sure.
But the specific ones for recapturing say they have to be on the board to roll them and certain things like that. So, to a certain extent, you can, but not all of them.
And maybe some of those that they are showing off are also factions that are more hungry up front. I mean, who's to say?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I would much rather let's just call it 10 for the sake of ease. I would rather start with 10 and have to use 6 to build my army and have 4, or 5, which would be roughly 1 command point per turn to do something. And maybe you get 1 of those back. That seems perfectly reasonable to me.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really want to memorize a million billion of them. And I do appreciate what you're saying about Marvel Crisis Protocol, but Marvel Crisis Protocol is a skirmish game, which always kind of have that limited thing, which is different. So it's hard to compare a skirmish game to a non-skirmish game. But it's also a brand new game, and there's already starting to be a huge number of cards, and every single character has its own special rules. So Marvel Crisis Protocol is going to get out of hand sooner rather than later, too. So I wouldn't be too excited about that.
Yeah, I think one way or another, you're going to have to learn your opponent's army, right? If you want to be good against it. They're always going to have rules. They're always going to have units that are going to try and screw you over, right?
Yeah. It's just I think it's just different when you have 30, right? You have 30 Space Marine rules, and then they combine a Space Marine rule with a sub-faction rule to do something unexpected, or just kind of like straight up, oh wow, I didn't realize that you could move out of combat, charge, assault, and then charge, right? Like
no disagreement from me, sir.
The new custode rule.
Way too many rules all over the place for one, so it's not really realistic to be able to learn. Let's say like learning to play against Imperial Guard. Good luck. Their rules are spread across like 5 books in White Dwarfs right now, I feel like. So what are you supposed to learn every book? And no, I mean, I don't think unless you're a super competitive player, you're probably not going to have to learn everything. You're going to obviously try and learn against your meta and who you're playing with. I don't know. I just like them because they add flavor to the game without having to have that flavor come from a specific character.
Right. So what do you think about the new Necron rules?
So the one dynasty thing, where if you shoot your weapons at a target that's within half of your range, you add +1 to, or subtract a minus AP, whatever you want to say, make it deadlier. That one's going to be pretty sweet for crons, especially if things stay fairly similar to how they are now. Let's see. The new guns on the Warriors are really bad. They're just real bad. They're range 14, and they are AP -2 and
Which
5.
is huge.
5 strength, which is better than their regular guns. I mean, we don't really know because they could have nerfed the regular guns even more just to screw with us. But those guns are real bad. Even though you can teleport close, probably with like with one of the lords or with the monolith. I mean, that unit is going to get, unless if you're fighting a melee army or not, it's going to get in combat the next turn, which then it can't shoot anymore, which means it's kind of like a one-shot pony, which I'm not excited about. So I still think the regular Goths are going to be the way to go, because if you think about it, at 12 inches, almost the max range for the other gun, you're getting 2 shots at strength 4 AP -1, and you have to get within 7 inches to get the 2 shots strength 5 AP -2. I don't see that it's going to be valuable, unfortunately. Which is sad, because I was like, oh, I can build all of the new ones with the new guns, and then I'm like, well, I guess not.
I mean, you still can, because you have plenty to do both.
I know, but they would never get used then.
Well, you can just do them as like scions, drop on the board, blow something up, and don't expect them to live. Just make sure that they have a good return on investment.
Yeah. We'll have to see. I think they said that Necrons are going to be, the Warriors are going to be about 12 points too.
Yep.
Which is more, but
how much more?
I think it's only like 18% more and 9% more from current, which is not as much as the other stuff that they've shown increasing in price. I think Cultists went up 50%, and the other ones went up 30 or so. So it's a much smaller increase, which is good. That means we're going to still have a lot on the table, but yeah, we don't know a lot of the other stuff, except for that those weapons are bad.
I think we should also take into consideration that with all the huge adjustments to points, like we should maybe consider them a general idea of what points are going to be like, because there's certainly going to be a FAQ or chapter approve or something that's going to probably change a lot of points. I mean, they did that after the indexes came out.
I'm just saying, if it's a closer combat game and you're already starting 24 inches apart and getting into combat as a certainty, then 7 inches strength 5 AP -2 might be insane, especially if you shoot and then you get Overwatch and you get something to make your Overwatch better. Like, that could be a problem.
Oh, it could be. We'll have to see what's going on, but from right now, it's trash pandas.
Or a stratagem that doubles their range.
Yeah, but then again, you're having to use command points to fix a model, which is funny.
True. True.
But yeah, and then we've got the rules for the daddy long legs, and its use in the command phase to add 1 to the reanimation protocol rolls for a unit within, I think, 9.
Yep.
That's pretty good. I like bringing my stuff back. But, it does take a command point, and that was what a Cryptek did for free.
Wait, it takes a command point?
Oh, no, it's a command. It's in the command phase. I'm sorry. It does not take. It's just done in the command phase. That's my bad. But instead of an aura ability, we're seeing something turn into a command phase ability, which is interesting, and other things can follow suit.
Oh, but here's a bummer. It has to remain within 9 inches of that model.
What's it say?
It says, if you do, until the start of your next command phase, while that unit is within 9 inches of this model, add 1 to reanimation protocols for models rolls made for models in that unit.
Is that for rest of the round? Does that say?
Yeah, to your next command phase. So it'd be for the rest of the round. They have to you can't activate it and then leave 9 inches.
Okay. Which is a bummer, but the real thing is like how is wound pulling going to work? Is it going to work the same as it is now? Where you just kind of choose where it goes? Because if they go to the old rules where you have to pull from the front, it could get interesting.
Why don't they just merge the Age of Sigmar and 40k rules?
They've always separated it.
I know, but they're getting so close now. Why not just merge it?
Because they would lose funding, because they're separate game systems and separate units and separate demons. And if they're all the same game, people would probably play less different armies, but be able to still participate in the same game.
So you think that it's only monetary? You're only thinking about you only think they're thinking about their wallet?
Well, I think that's the primary thing.
I don't know.
Because that's what I would worry about as a business.
See, I would think, if we have one core rule set, then we're going to get people to play twice as many armies.
Have you ever seen Games Workshop? 1,000 games a year. They're not interested in merging anything.
Although if it did, it would create some pretty cool battles. Like I would like to see Tau fight fish elves.
Well, I have a website that's set up where they actually did the Imperial Guard and Tyrannid rules and Age of Sigmar data sheets or whatever they're called. So you could actually play them in Age of Sigmar, which is pretty cool.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
So any other ways that 40K is turning slightly more into AOS?
Not that's official, but I assume that the way that the games are going to be laid out is going to be more AOS like, especially with their I forgot what it's called.
Sizes.
The board sizes, and what is it called when the 1,000-point games, and how you pick your sides and the different board shapes and things like that.
Yeah.
Objectives?
No, there's a specific name for it in Age of Sigmar. That's a different play style.
Oh, I don't know.
Look at he's yellow.
That's a good yellow skin. What about the terrain, Aaron? Is that any more like AOS now than it was before?
Honestly, I don't know the AO. I haven't played AOS in a long time, and I don't remember the terrain rules for AOS. But it does seem more like AOS terrain where different pieces of terrain are going to have a specific stat, and multiple stats can be on a single piece of terrain, which is kind of like AOS. So in AOS, like in the original rules, you'd set up terrain and then you'd make a forest deadly, right? Or you'd make a hill magical. So in 40K, you're going to have a hill and it's going to be soft cover, and you're going to have a building and it's going to be obscure.
It's going to be light cover, not soft.
Sorry.
Well, they already showed that there's going to be melee cover saves in that the heaviest terrain.
Right, and I don't understand how
campers that are there just shooting in a building and not moving, because the way that it's worded, I mean, it clearly states that it doesn't trigger if something's charging in at you. So if something's charging in at you, that buff for you is just null. But then when you go to fight back, they do have the buff. So it's really there not to give a bonus to people who are already in that cover. And excuse me, hard cover versus...
I don't understand it all. I know you just explained it, and I don't understand it. So essentially, like, if you're in cover and you get charged, you don't get cover.
You don't get the bonus to heavy cover.
But if you're just standing around fighting, then both sides get cover?
Yeah, if you are in it, because it explicitly states for anyone except charging units. So once you are both in it, then yeah, everyone has it.
Well, charging units actually is the attacker that wouldn't get the armor save. That's the same as it is in AOS.
Oh, so if you charge into somebody who's in cover,
Yes.
the people who are in cover get a better save, and the people who charged in do not.
No, it explicitly states that if you're charging, you don't get the better save.
Well, read it again. Let's read it.
Do you have it there?
I will find it 1 second. The paint on my brush is drying, and I want to use it really quick.
Heavy cover is +1 save versus melee unless the model charged.
Yeah, that is the charging models not getting the cover.
Really? I thought it was the charging in models would get it, and the one stationary would not.
No, because the one stationary can brace and be able to use that terrain correctly. So you read it incorrectly. That's okay. It works the same way in AOS though.
So I guess in that thing, like if this piece of paper that you guys can't see is cover, then you want to be right up at the front edge of the cover so that you get cover when you're charged, and even in the next round you continue to get cover and the charging models don't.
Well, technically, if they can't get in the cover, I guess not. But I mean, we don't know what the pile-in rules and stuff are, or model removals. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff we don't know still.
But heavy cover, when they say heavy cover, it's only referring to close combat.
Yes.
Which means that light cover provides only for being shot at.
Correct. As far as we've seen, because there might be other the cover types and such.
And then they have this weird size thing where certain things just can't be seen ever.
Yes.
Or can always be seen because of their wound count.
Yeah, yes. So any terrain that's over 5 inches, you now have to measure and know that it is.
And that's any point of the terrain, the highest point of the terrain. Not so if you have a pyramid and the point of the pyramid is 5 inches, then the entire terrain is considered to be 5 inches.
Really?
Yes. It says if you check it, it says any part of the terrain. Which means that if you have, like I said, if you have a pyramid and it's a really low, shallow pyramid, right? Let's say it's a foot-long pyramid, but the very middle of it is 5.5 inches, then that entire piece of terrain counts as being 5 inches, even if you're at the very little bottom corner and just your toe is behind it.
I think it's a really complicated rule to say, if you just see an antenna, don't be a jerk about it. I mean, isn't that the type of stuff they needed to fix? Not like creating a line of 18 wounds is where you can be seen from anywhere always if you're just behind a building, or if you.
See, I thought like, and I must have misunderstood that. I thought that what that was saying was, if you have 18 or more wounds, and part of your model can be seen, like that you can still see it. That you can shoot at it and it doesn't get cover. Not that if it was completely obscured behind a perfect wall and it can't see you and you can't see it, that it can still be shot as though there was no terrain present at all.
Well, the example that they gave was with a knight, and they said basically along the lines of, there's always the assumption that a knight is not going to always be able to be 100% hiding behind a building. It's going to be poking out between buildings somewhere. So
I guess I'm wrong.
I mean, I could also be wrong again.
No, I think that is correct.
That if it has more than 18 wounds, it just simply cannot be in behind something entirely.
Yes.
That's the
to me, like, I guess here's the problem. To me, that sounds fine if all the terrain that you're using is the GW terrain, because I can't think of a piece of GW terrain that would cover a knight. You know what I mean? Like I have some right here in front of me, right? You know, we got this stuff. The STC Ryza pattern ruins, right? Like obviously that's not going to cover anything. The problem is you play all these narrative games or you build all these amazing boards where some people do build buildings that would be totally large enough to cover a knight, you know? And it doesn't really work with that.
I think it's supposed to be the flavor of that. There's some things that are just too massive to not be able to be detected.
But aren't there some small things that have more than 18 wounds?
I mean, I think
And aren't there some?
Yeah, there's the new sisters. The what's her name of Triumph? Triumph of Saint Catherine. It's like a couple ladies walking down the street. They're just ladies, but they're on a little bit bigger of a base, and they have 18 wounds.
Yeah.
So they can be seen from anywhere.
And there might be rules that say if it's a character, it can't be seen, or they might errata something like that it can't be seen. But for right now, yeah.
Yep.
And aren't there some really big things that have under 18 wounds that can take super advantage of this?
Yeah, like what is a repulsor or
Yeah, the repulsor is what I'm looking at a repulsor right now. I mean,
got a big old booty, right?
This thing is it's ginormous. It's huge. Yeah. It's huge. Yeah. Like that's not the camera people making the Marines look small. The Marines are small.
But if it's a couple inches wide and at least 5 inches tall, it can't be seen.
No, it can.
So,
right.
Let's talk about that. So if you have a pillar 1 inch wide or 1 inch deep by 5 inches tall, does that block everything right behind it?
Well, part of what it says in the terrain, and let me read it. And this, I think, comes from a ITC Adepticon mentality.
Okay.
Is that it talks about at the beginning of the game, you and your opponent are going to decide what the terrain features are in some sort of specific manner. Not just like, hey, what's up? I think this is a ruin. More like you each get to pick 5, right? Or something, like some sort of rule. Let's see if I can find it. Which implies that you might be able to mess with terrain in a way to favor you or to screw your opponent. Terrain rules in line of sight. Here we go.
So yeah, it sounds like you're going to be able to decide, like it said, decide if things are going to have light cover or heavy cover or both.
Hold on, here it goes. When setting up the battlefield, you and your opponent decide what terrain will be applied to each piece of scenery. Now that's really vague, right? But if decide means here is the list of rules on how you're going to decide, and
no, I think it's going to be just like an Age of Sigmar. You decide things beforehand. Even in today's 40K, you still will talk with your opponent and decide this is heavy cover, this is light cover, stuff like that. We do that all the time.
No, I know, but I'm just wondering if they're going to formalize it in a more of a tournament way. So that, yes, if you get to pick that one, my point is, like, if you're the person who gets to decide that one column, then you may pick it to be heavy cover.
Do you think it's going to allow, like, you put down a piece of terrain, I put down a piece of terrain, you put down a piece of terrain, I do, and then we do the same for the, whatever the terrain rules that we want to put on them?
It definitely could.
It definitely feels like that to me. Yes, it feels like that to me when I read it. I could be biased from playing an Adepticon and stuff, but that is how it feels, yeah. And that is kind of how, that is how Age of Sigmar was, and I think technically still is. I just feel like most people don't do it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big things I don't like about Age of Sigmar. Like straight off the bat, I hate that you have to decide what realm. I hate that when you're in a realm, there's these additional rules to it. I hate that you have all this terrain, and then the terrain has additional rules to it. And then I hate that those terrain rules can change during the game depending on people's special abilities. And it's just like, oh my god, there's so much going on just for the realm and the terrain. That's like, I don't care, man. Like, I don't care. Everything's a freaking hill and everything's a tree, and leave me alone.
Unless it's competitive,
everything's a
people
tree.
skip a lot of those phases, though, I'm sure.
Right, but then why do they keep trying to... If people are skipping that, like, if they're saying we're listening to the community and we're taking feedback and people are skipping all of these phases, so let's double down on it and put them in again.
Yeah. It kind of sounds like they might be, I don't know, knee-jerk reaction here, that they might be, one of the ways that they're going to shorten the game is by putting a lot of the time into setup. You're putting all your command points, spending them early, spending more time setting up terrain. I don't really think it's going to be that big of a deal, though, that much more time. I think it's going to be, they currently at least don't have a good way of marking what abilities what terrain has.
Yeah.
We all have tokens, and we can all figure that out. I have a feeling there's going to be a big old terrain token pack coming out.
I think what's going to happen is like hills, ruins, statues, and a couple other things are just going to have a standard list of conditions for them, and that's just what they're always going to be. You know what I mean? A ruin is always just going to be light cover, obscuring. Right? That's it. It's just always going to have those two conditions.
Did you see how many keywords are on some of that stuff right now?
So this is their ruin, right? Terrain category. All right, so ruins. Here we go. This is their exact thing of what a ruin is. Which, by the way, I don't see any ruins on their battlefield because they're using the new box set of buildings, and the buildings are all triangle pieces, and they don't actually have an area. But anyways, that's a different thing. The galaxy is littered with shattered remains of once proud cities. Okay, terrain category, area terrain. Cool. Terrain traits, scalable, breachable, light cover, defensible, obscuring. Holy shit. That is just your standard ass ruling.
Yeah, it's a lot. Like, everything I see in this edition is just adding stuff on top of the old edition, which everyone liked because it was simpler, which makes me really worried for this new version.
Here we go. Armored containers. These vast steel containers are built strong to protect the cargo within. Terrain category, obstacles. Terrain traits, light cover, scalable, exposed position. But then you look at the board, you know what I mean? And it's like, 1, 2, 3. Like, I don't understand how you determine area terrain based on this board. Based on the terrain that they have on the board. But that's just me.
I feel like trenches are the only models, like terrain models, that you could actually consider of theirs because nothing else has an actual base to it.
Yet they're saying that ruins are terrain category, area terrain. Now it might work like Warcry, where you put down a little fence and you draw a 1-inch bubble around it, and anything that's within that 1-inch bubble is in that area terrain. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it could just, when you say area terrain, it could just work like that, where it has some zone outside of it that counts as area terrain, as opposed to what we would traditionally count as area terrain, which would be the base. By the way, is it bad to wet your brush in your mouth? Because I do it a lot.
That's how I do it. It's bad.
It depends. So actually, P3 paints, those are actually made from acrylics that are food grade safe.
Oh, no. I don't give a crap if it's bad for me. I don't care if it's bad for me. Is it bad for painting good-looking miniatures?
Oh, no. It doesn't.
No, artists use it a lot because something that's in your saliva repels water. So you can actually use it a lot it's used in two-brush blending as a principle to be able to move paint around where you want it to. Have you ever done two-brush blending?
No.
Okay. Do you understand how it works? Essentially, you actually have two paint brushes. One of them you use to glob on swatches of paint. The other one you keep in your mouth, kind of like how you've had it. And then before you use it, you swipe it through your mouth so you have a little bit of saliva on it. And then you use that brush that just has your saliva on it to fan out the swatch of paint to make a better blend. And then you just keep doing that. And the brush that has your saliva on it, even though you're pushing paint around, it never actually gets filled with paint if you're doing it right.
Really?
Yep.
That's the paint for you.
Yep. And that's why I learned P3 paint is food grade safe, so you can eat it. Obviously, don't do it with any metals.
Hey, check this out.
Yeah, boy.
Wait, what?
P3 black is my favorite black.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I really like their black. Right out of the can too. I like it right out of the can.
Yeah, I still have a soft spot for Abaddon black, but I usually actually use I have a lot of Stynel res and other stuff that should be more of a primer, but I use it for black anyways. And sometimes just drop in 1 or 2 drops of ink.
Because your black's not black enough.
Yeah, but a little black ink in there, whew, they'll make anything black enough.
Yeah, it's true.
All right, well, we got about 10 minutes left. So, what would y'all like to talk about?
Stuff. Let's talk about. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think we should talk about what we're most excited with, or we should make bets on when we're actually going to see
each other. When we're going to see each other.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a little while.
Yeah, how are we going to cover this game when it comes out if we're still in quarantine?
You'll have to have your gas mask on.
I guess.
It'll be from the front lines. And you should get a Imperial Guard army with all the gas masks so you can cosplay.
Do you have any speculations on Fabius Bile's army?
I think it's gonna be awesome chaos.
That doesn't exist, but I think it will look really cool. And I don't have a lot of faith in it because it's from a supplement, honestly. Nothing that comes from a supplement has been good.
Not a fact.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean it comes from a supplement?
It comes from like the what's
they don't
it called?
have their own codex.
No, they don't have their own codex. The rules are in that Phoenix Rising book or whatever.
War of the Spider.
War of the Spider, whatever. The point is that it's from a supplement, and they're not going to probably support that army if it is indeed its own army. I don't have a lot of faith in it. It's going to be cool because it's Fabius Bile, and he'll probably be able to be used in some Chaos armies, but I don't think it will be like a Powerhouse army.
I think that right now it's in his own supplement, but next time they do Black Legion or maybe Chaos Undivided Codex, they'll have their own section.
I just like the phrase Chaos Undivided.
Yeah.
I like that idea. I like saying that. Chaos Undivided.
It's cool.
Yeah. I do have some speculations based on some data mining of images that I did on the GW website that there will be a Fabius Bile faction upgrade sprue. We were looking at some pictures.
Oh, yeah. Can we
jobs?
Oh, I wish I could show that.
Probably good that you don't.
You should talk about that. It's really funny.
So on the Warhammer, or actually on the Games Workshop site, it's probably still up there, but on the sliding top banner, I think it was on there just yesterday, you have the new Blackstone Fortress guy, the Groot or Zote, the Zote. And the next slide over is Fabius Bile, and he has a sorcerer next to him. He has his little toadstool off to the side. And if you look at that sorcerer, that is the Chaos Sorcerer, the new one that came out. However, that is not the head, and that head is not in the kit. He's not holding the little like flaming chaos symbol in his hand, but that's irrelevant. He has this weird bone structure hanging where his backpack should be. He doesn't have the backpack that has the little like bird things on it. Instead, he has this bone thing, and hanging from one end of the bone thing is this like head with a vial that has blue stuff going into it that goes behind him. And that thing, there's literally, if you just look closely, you don't even have to zoom in. You can see where there's just like a photoshopped line.
A black line, like a thick black line.
Thick black line. And at the other end of that bone structure thing, you'll see a really bad blur or crop out of, it looks like a exhaust on a backpack, but it's way off in space. So that's really funny. Another thing that's on there that isn't on the model is there's a blue vial hanging from the hip on that sword. That is not on the model at all. So upgrade sprue coming at you.
Yeah, because they tend not to show conversions when on their new coming stuff. So it's probably a conversion kit, but yeah.
Why didn't they release that at the same time as the book, do you think? Because people are going to get the book and they're going to start buying stuff and putting stuff together, and then the sprue is going to come out. That's going to piss people off.
Or it's part of a different box that it comes in.
Maybe.
Right?
Yeah, it could be.
A Fabius Bile starter set. Start collecting.
Exactly.
That'd be cool.
Josh.
Yeah, buddy.
What do you think of the new awesome Space Marine car?
Trash times 2.
Buggy?
I mean, I don't understand. I mean, I heard what you guys said. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense why you put wheels on something when you have the technology to fly. It's like, oh, look at this vehicle could be really awesome, but we're gonna make it terrestrial.
I don't like the answer that they gave online at all. Like, I absolutely love that artist, and I've met him. I met him at Games Day 2010 or 2011. I think there's actually an interview on CGN from back then where I interviewed him. And he's sculpted so many of the just like classic Space Marine stuff. And he gave such a typical artist answer, right? Like such a non-answer. We thought that, we think that wheels look brutal. And, sometimes when we put Space Marine stuff out, they use the grav plates, and sometimes they use wheels. And it's just like, cool.
So they put tanks on grav plates.
Right.
But buggies on wheels.
Yeah, it really feels that they took the land speeder and put wheels on it.
And made it garbagey.
But they also took a dreadnought and put a roll cage on it. So let that sink in a little.
Well, here's the funny thing about the dreadnought with the roll cage, right? At least in the rules, you know what I mean? It's like a Space Marine normal armor set and like a Terminator armor set is already just as good as a dreadnought, pretty much, because they don't have armor anymore, right? They don't have 14 front-facing armor. So it's like, why do you even need a giant armor set around you if your normal Space Marine armor is just as competent? It's not like it's a D3 twice. You know, if you're a giant walker, you have a 3-up. It's just, you have a 3-up. Well, but my Space Marine just walking around has a 3-up. So the question is, why do you even need a giant walker?
Well, it's more toughness.
Sure. That's it. That's all you get.
Yeah, that's why it's there. I mean, it has a little bit more wounds than your standard Space Marine.
But typically you think armor is a function of thickness. Right. So, and that's how it used to work, was that vehicles had armor stats, and the bigger dreadnoughts had thicker armor.
Yeah. Well, it could also be that they have redundant systems or secondary power sources.
It's so confusing, the things that you defend and the things that you don't like. You are an enigma. You're an enigma.
I am a devil's advocate for stuff. Come on.
I like the buggy personally. I think it looks cool.
I know you do.
But I'm taking all of that stuff and I'm making it fly anyways. So.
Oh, so you don't like it?
I do like it. I do
so
like
you're
it.
gonna inherently change it.
I'm going to change it to not be like that. Absolutely. But I do like it.
All right. That is confusing to humans.
Sure. Sounds good.
I like it, but I'm gonna change it because I don't like it.
Because I want it to be different.
To be different than it is. Because I don't like how it is now. Is that what you're saying? Just making sure. Just clarifying.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
I'm pretty sure that's what you're saying.
I'm saying I think it looks cool, but it would be cooler if it flew.
Oh, so you don't like it then?
Shut up.
Just so we're clear.
I do find all of the memes about it being a 6-year-old toy really funny.
Yeah, because it looks like a donkey doo-doo.
But you know what? I have a 6-year-old, and he thought it was so cool, so that makes me happy.
Well, there you go.
So you proved the internet right?
Go, Joe.
Oh my gosh. As soon as I saw that meme, I brought him in and had him look at it, and he was like, "That's so cool, when are you getting that?" I was like, oh man. Internet right. All right, well,
remember when we talked on the phone and you're like, everybody likes it? And I'm like, nobody likes it.
Nobody likes it. Nobody likes it. I was wrong on that one.
Look I painted this guy more.
Let me see.
Nice.
I painted this guy more. I painted this guy more. I painted this girl some.
Awesome.
She's got a robot arm.
Very exciting. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this deeper dive into the new Warhammer 40,000 9th Age, because I'm pretty sure that we're going to play Age of Sigmar with guns. Yeah, I think that's happening. If you want more coverage, feel free to hit that like button, hit that bell button if you never want to miss an update. Also, you can check us out on Patreon. That is Cool Guys Nation, patreon.com/CoolGuysNation. Anything that you want to plug, Aaron?
Play more Warcry.
Aaron's plugging Warcry. And as always, we'll see you on the...
Why can't I play? Why can't I plug something?
Plug something. Plug something.
Play more Crisis Protocol.
By the way, I like your glasses.
Yeah, thank you.
So until next time, we'll see you on the
table. Bye, guys.
Later.